All right, Magic Makers, before we get started today, I have a little bit of a story to tell you. So, this years ago when I was in high school, there was a girl, let's call her Susie, to protect the innocent. And I remember we were talking about, what are you doing for Christmas? And she's like, oh my God, I'm going to Jupiter. And I was like, that explains a lot about you. Little did I know that Jupiter was a place in Florida. I thought she was talking about the freaking planet. And then here I am, fast forward, let's just say, keep the years between us. X number of years forward, here I am, and I'm on my way to Jupiter. So either she was wildly ahead of her time, or I owe her apology. Probably both. Probably both, right? So this episode is more about a little bit of a life update, but more about what's life teaching me right now. And I feel like so many times I like sharing with you what's going on with me in real time so that you can see that like right now life is coming at me fast. I am T minus 10 days, 15 days from all my stuff being taken out of a place I lived. I've lived in this house for 10 years, but I've lived in Boston for nearly 30 years ago. And, I survived 3 decades here in Boston. I survived the winters that made me question my life choices. I've probably worn 500 different layers between November and April. I've scraped off my car more times than I care to count. And let the record show, I have yet to ever say, looking outside, like, oh my God, that snowstorm feels magical. I've never said that. I've never had my hallmark a moment watching the snow. I'm like, God damn it. When do we need to go out there and shovel that shit? So, but I stayed because life was really good. I moved here on a whim. I came here I came to college. I had no idea. Like nowadays, kids go to college and they're like, oh, they have all these like, stars in their eyes about what they want for the college experience. I had no freaking idea what I wanted for my college experience. And I came here at the time, my high school boyfriend, his sister came to college in Boston, and we drove here to pick her up. We spent the night, and I was like, oh, this is a cute little town. And I had never been to Boston before. I had never been north of Hartford before. And then I came here for college and I was like, Boston was great. I had a lot of fun. And then went home to New York. And then a friend was like, hey, we got tickets to this concert. You should come. And I'm like, hey, I got the weekend off. I'll come. And next thing you know, I'm signing a lease. And next thing you know, it's 2026. And, I stayed, right? Life was really good. I built my business here. I built friendships here. I met my husband here. I built a life here. I've had multiple times opportunities to leave. For a job, I was asked to move to Minnesota. Hell bleeping no. But then I was asked to move to San Francisco, and I really, really thought about it. I met Philip. He lived in Maryland, and we were long distance for 2 years before finally we're like, if this is going to be a relationship, like someone's got to move, right? So I think sometimes like when life gets good enough, we stop questioning whether it's still the life we actually want, right? You tell ourselves, so and I told myself like maybe someday I'll leave Boston, maybe someday I'll do the thing, maybe day when the timing is right, maybe someday when life calms down, and then suddenly you blink and you look around and you're like, damn, it's been 10 years, it's been 20 years, it's been 30 years, right? And so while I'm packing out my house, I opened up a closet that I literally hadn't opened in about 10 years. I I just threw shit in there during the move. I threw shit in there because it was on the floor and I was like out of sight, out of mind. And it was boxes upon boxes. It was boxes of shit from a job I had 20 years ago. And I carried it from my apartment to when I moved into Philip to our first house to this house. And I don't think I've ever even unpacked it. Right. And I just stood there thinking, like, why am I carrying this? And honestly, that question hit me harder than I expected because it wasn't just about the boxes, right? I think a lot of us do this. We carry old identities, and I had such a great conversation with a woman, Brian. Show's going to be probably about 2 or 3 weeks after this recording, but we talked a lot about identities. I think a lot of you will get a lot out of that conversation. But In that box, in those boxes were my old identity, my old expectations of myself, old stories I told myself, old beliefs of who I was. And if I look back, like it was all the stuff I did when I worked in corporate. And when I worked in corporate, I did a lot of like events. I did a lot of like print stuff that I'm like, no one prints anything anymore. Everything is like web or email. And I was like, that, would that even show, would that even, if I did ever go on a corporate job interview, like, would that even play out? And I see us like all, holding on to these old diets. Like speaking of old diets, I found like a whole book of like workouts and things that I've had since the 90s when, I would write my workouts on a piece of paper. And now I look and like those workouts, I wouldn't do them anymore, right? I wouldn't spend 2 hours at the gym. I only spend 2 hours at the gym unless I'm being paid. And so we hold on to things long after they stop fitting, long after we've outgrown them, and we hold on to them simply because we never thought to question them, or we question them for like a second, but then we go back. We're like, this feels familiar, right? And this move has me questioning all of it. Not in a dramatic burn my life down, but although maybe it is kind of burn my life down. I don't know. But I'm asking myself, what else is possible for me? Like, what have I just accepted because this is how life is? Not because it's true, not because it's what I want, but it's familiar, right? We all have that. Like, I have this sweatshirt from, gosh, the late 80s. It has a hole, it is ripped, it's tattered, but it's comfortable as fuck. And I love it. I wear it around the house, and every time I wear it, my husband gives me such an eye roll. He's just like, I can't believe you wear that thing. And I'm like, it's comfortable, it's warm, it's cozy. It's like I've just got it like broken into like all the right spots, right? And so like we all have that like spot on the couch or that ratty something that you wear and it's like horrible, makes you look homeless, but you still wear it. And so, how many of those things of our routines are we still holding on to and we've outgrown it, right? The relationships we tolerate, the ways of living that just don't light us up anymore, rules we inherited without really understanding why we even freaking do it. And so then we stop asking what's possible and we start organizing ourselves around what's predictable, knowing the outcome. One of the I think it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's certainty, right? Some of the things we do because I'm certain of the results I'm going to get. We need certainty. A lot of us don't like the unpredictability of things. We are like very structured, like it has to happen like this, or it freaks me right the bleep out. And when we start organizing our lives around predictability, right, it has us question like, what season am I in? Right. And being open to like, maybe I don't have the answer right now, or maybe the answer I think is the answer is wrong because life isn't some perfectly polished plan. And maybe I just need to start paying attention to the fact that something is shifting inside of me. Like there's this like little, I talk about all the time, this little whisper, right? This little whisper who was like, does it have to be this way? Does life have to be this hard? Do I have to struggle? Do I always have to hustle? Right. And at some point, I know that you guys listening here, and if you've listened to like my podcast, you guys know I am a recovering hustler. And I can hustle for a little bit, but I am not going to spend my life hustling. That was my identity. I hustled and I grind, and I'm an uncle. If it's something requires me to hustle and grind forever, I am completely out. And we all have that quiet voice inside that says, maybe there's more to this, right? And I totally feel that, some of you guys listening, you might be there right now. And I'm encouraging you to listen to that voice because honestly, this whole season has made me realize like something that I think I've known for years, but I've only been brave enough now to say it out loud. The work that I have been doing for these last 15 years, it's never really been about the weight. Right. I've been forced to say that it's about the weight. I've been forced to talk about belly fat. I've been forced to talk about losing weight. I've been forced to talk about losing belly fat. But for me, and for most of the women that I work with, no one comes to me who says, "Ah, I want to lose weight because it's so gosh darn fun. I love losing weight. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life." No one ever says that to me. Now, if that brings you joy, I am not going to rain on your parade. However, the woman who comes to me, they are frustrated. They are pissed off. They are wanting to look in the mirror and love what they see. They want to like put on whatever they want in their gosh darn closet and feel confident as fuck. They want to feel like just free to wear whatever it is that they want, free to just like go to the beach and not be like, how do I strategically cover up whatever it is that you think you need to cover up? How do I have more energy to play with my kids or my grandkids or just for me, that I don't always feel like I come home from work and I just want to pass out on the couch with a bottle of wine and some pretzel crisps, right? How do I just feel attractive, not just for my partner, but for me? How do I look in the mirror and be like, damn, I'm looking hot today? Right? How do I just start to just feel good again? And how do I finally stop the obsession? Oh my God, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? What can I do? What am I missing out? Why am I behind? Right? We just want permission to stop with all of the obsession, but somewhere along the line, we always told ourselves, after I lose the 10 pounds, after I lose the 5 pounds, after I, get, six pack abs, after I get the Brazilian butt, after. And then we tell ourselves, in order to get all of that, it's the discipline, it's the motivation. And then we think we're waiting for this better version of ourselves to like ring our doorbells and be like, hey, I'm here. We're ready to party. And then we've been waiting for so gosh darn long, we don't believe that anymore, right? Because if this season of life has taught me anything, is that too many women are putting their lives on the back burner, waiting for some future version of themselves to be like, hey, now's the time, get in. We're going to Confidence Town. We're going to feel sexy in a bathing suit that and or just show up at the beach and not give a rat's hind parts what is showing. Do I have a belly? Do I have cottage cheese thighs? Whatever it is, I'm going because I like the gosh darn beach. And I want you to start thinking like, how do I fully live my life, right? Not when I get smaller, not when I have more discipline, not when I feel more confidence, not when I feel more ready. Because here's the thing, ready is a state of mind. And for many of you, and I talk about this all the time, ready comes with, I have to do 500 things to be ready, right? The kids can't be, needing to be taken to some type of sports practice or dance or piano or whatever the hell your kids do. It can't be a time at work when I'm on 500 deadlines. It can't be a time at work, a time that, my parents are needing me to drive them to doctors or just manage their lives. It can't be a time when I can't sit down for 5 minutes and take a breath for myself, right? Those days are never going to happen. I mean, if you have that in your life, rock on. Go you. I love that for you. But what if the whole game right now is just living for how you are right now and figuring out how do we fit where we are, where it could be, there's a woman who was on a call. She's in a point that like she's got a lot of like physical body pain. And that's where she is. So me saying, well, you got to strength train, Joan. No, Joan can't strength train. I'm like, Joan, you know what? You know where you are? You're doing your PT exercises when it's, if they tell you to do your PT exercises 5 days a week, that's where you are. That's where you are. And many of us don't know how to do that, right? One of my favorite quotes is by Arthur Ashe. And it's like, start where you are and do what you can, right? And many of us, we want to skip to the good part. Me too, right? I hate being a beginner. Like you want to be a freaking master. And the way I slow myself down, there's two analogies that I always tell myself. One is that when I showed up at kindergarten back when Kim was, I don't know, what are you, 5 years old, 6 years old, I didn't show up and be like, hey, kindergarten teacher, I don't color like the regular people. I'm here to do advanced calculus. No, I sat my ass down and I grabbed a crayon and I probably ate paste. But many of us show up at kindergarten and we want to be in the advanced class, right? Or the other analogy I give is pregnancy, right? We all like, in our great wisdom want to time our pregnancy. Like, I want to be pregnant during this time or whatever time, you know, whatever it is that you tell yourself. You want to have a fall baby, a spring baby, whatever. But like we all know, like you get pregnant when you get pregnant. And it's not as easy as they told us during sex class. So you you go to your OBGYN and they're like, congratulations, Sharon, you're pregnant, and you're X number of weeks pregnant. And then you're like, well, you know what? That means the baby's going to be born in January, and January doesn't really work for me. So do you think we can push it up so that I can give birth before the holidays? Your doctor would look at you like, girl, that's not how it works. And so for so many of us, like we think we can speed things up, slow things down, have things at the time we want them to have it. But that's not how it works. So I want you to look at like getting healthier, getting fitter, like pregnancy. It's like it is a certain amount of time. Do I wish it was like 9 months? Probably. Like you could see some. I'll tell you, probably in 9 months, if you were to be sick, consistent. And when I say consistent, I'm not giving you 10 things. If you were consistent with at least 3 things for 9 months, I will tell you that you will experience more energy. There will be either change on the scale or definitely body composition changes, and you probably will get a little bit more sleep. I know that for a fact. That's what I can guarantee you in 9 months. Give yourself 2 years. I think you could be unrecognizable. But what my little side quest here was that it was like the point was never to spend your whole damn life managing your body. And I see so many people who are like, if I am not like doing all the things and right, like I have to either be healthy or living my life, healthy or living my life, where it's like I like to think about how do you weave things into your life. And so many people are like, so my husband will be retiring, and many people are like, so what does that look like? What does life look like for you? And I've taught classes. This is the least amount of classes I have taught since ever, since I started. I went from teaching like 14 classes before COVID to now in the last 3 years, I teach 6 classes a week, and that's only for 2 days. Like 2 days a week, I teach 6 classes. And like, Kim, well, how is it going to work? And it's like for me, I weave my health, my fitness, my work all into the day. So it's like I'm recording this podcast right now, but I went to the gym before I recorded this podcast. And then after I record this podcast, I'm going to go for a walk. And then I'm going to do a little work. And like, it's just, I fit things into the pockets of my day. And, 15 years ago, when I went to the gym, if I wasn't doing cardio and lifting at the same time, it didn't count in my mind. But as I've evolved, as my tolerance, my patience, my wisdom has evolved, I realized that like, you know what? I use what I got, right? The Arthur Ashe quote, I use what I got. And so the real work is like, how do I stop postponing things, waiting for me to be ready, waiting for the time to be right, waiting for life to be right, because it's never going to be the right time. But what I have to do is I got to stop postponing my damn life and stop pursuing waiting for my body to make me think that I'm going to be finally worthy of it, and start to say, what can I do right now? What's possible for me right now? And for some of you, right, it's going to look really different. 15 years ago, like I had the mental capacity, I had the bandwidth to do 90-minute workouts. Nowadays, I probably could find the time for 90 minutes, but I don't have the mental capacity. I'm like, something is, I'm an hour, 45 minutes, and then I'm done. Like, I'm like, I gotta walk out of that. I mean, I work out in my basement, but within an hour, I'm like, I gotta go. I got to get out of here. So we have to start to ask ourselves, like, what in my like ideal scene, right? Ideal scene, what does a workout look like for you? Not what you've been told, not what you could do. What does a workout feel like? And for some of you, you might be like, it's 15 minutes. Great, awesome. Let's start there. Because I know that if we start with 15 minutes, some days you might have 20, some days you might have 30. But if we say our bare minimum, our hard deck is 15, I know that most of you will get it done. And I can guarantee you that you can get stuff done in 15 minutes. Now, here's where you have to adjust your expectations. You have to adjust your expectations based on how much time that you have. I do believe something is better than nothing, but if you are thinking that you're going to be this ripped goddess with a 15-minute workout, I need to just pull you back in, right? Because I think so many of us, our expectations of ourselves are exponential compared to where we can actually be. And I don't say that to be rude. I say that because I want us to kind of like check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, right? So think about it like that. And, as I was, going through that closet of 15 years or 10 years of crap, I was going through like my old journals and I found something and I found a note and I talked about this in a few, probably about maybe 2 or 3 months ago on a podcast. And and it came back up and I was like rereading it and it really stopped me in my tracks because it was just something that I wrote just out of just like passion. Um, Out of like I talked about this ideal scene. All right. So years ago when I was first starting my fitness business, um, the coach I had was like, Kim, how do you see your life? Right? Close your eyes and how do you see your life? Like, what does your life look like? And it was really kind of eerie because I wrote this probably like mm, no more than 10 years ago. And just how my life is kind of falling together is how I started this and how I saw my life, like how I saw myself like sitting by the water, how I saw myself sitting on a deck. And honestly, that is the house that I have right now, or not in Cambridge, but the house I have that I'm moving to. So I'll read you a part of this manifesto that I wrote to myself. I'm like, and then again, who the hell am I to write a manifesto? So I said, I am devoted to breaking the rules and doubts that have kept me stuck in my self-imposed prison. I am committed to living my best life by my definition. I let go of the stories that have kept me stuck and sitting on the sidelines of my life. I am fierceness wrapped in gentleness. Flip-flops are how I express my freedom. I let my life be easy. It is flip-flops on my feet and sun in my face. I take bold, imperfect action over perfection, fear, and waiting. Yeah, that's what I wrote 10 years ago. And then I put it in a drawer. And the wildest part is that I think I wrote this person into existence, the person that I'm now becoming, the person that I'm now feeling like I finally have got the lessons that I've needed over these last decade to grow into this person, to be brave enough to say, you know what? Yeah, like to be brave enough to say, like, no, I don't want to work out for 90 minutes. To be brave enough to say, no, I don't want to track my fucking food every morsel. Like, no, I don't want to weigh and measure every goddamn thing I put into my mouth. Right. I finally got to that point that I don't feel like I have to control it that way. Are there certain things I weigh and measure? Yes. Do I, but do I feel like I can't go out and have a birthday dinner with my husband? No. I go out and I enjoy my meal and I make my best choices. I go out and I've talked about this before. I go out and before I leave the house, I decide like, is this going to be a night that I'm like, hey, I'm going to enjoy the evening and let eat what I want? Or is like, do I go out and be like, you know what? I'm going to make a conscious choice before I leave the house. And so that's where I want you to get to that point in your life, right? That I want you to be able to say, like, I am no longer trying to like wedge myself back into some season of life that I'm not there anymore, right? You know, and I've talked about this client before that when I first met her, she was 27 years old. 27. We're like, what can't we do? She's 27 years old. She had one kid. And yeah, going to the gym 90 minutes a day, it worked out for her. But as life went on, she had two more kids when we reconnected. And she was still trying to create these 90-minute workouts. And I'm like, girl, like, you don't have that time. So like how much time do you have? And let's work with that. And I think that's why it's keeping so many of you stuck, is that you would keep trying to go back to the good old days. But here's the thing. Skinny eyebrows aren't coming back. Thank the fucking God. Although I am happy that the mid-rise gene is starting to go away because I looked better in the low-rise gene because I have no waist. That's just me. Anywho, but things all circle right back around. And I want you to like kind of like let go of Kim 42, embrace Kim 52, because Kim 42, Kim 52 are different people. I'm in a different one season of my life, but two, I'm also like, hey, I'm like, I don't want to make the time that Kim 42 did. Kim 42, like, I don't want to live that. And so I want you to really ask yourself, like, who do you want to be? Like, write that freaking manifesto if you want, and just like write that person into existence. Like, what do you like? What are you pissed off about? Like, what do you want to feel? Like, how do you want to be in this world? So, this episode isn't just about my moving, right? It's about finally like listening. It's finally like having, finally like starting to like listen to the nudges, right? Listen to the nudges more than the familiar. And like this year, there's going to be a whole lot of first for me and a whole lot of scary things that I'm just going to have to plug my nose and dive on in, right? Because this move, it's about more freedom, more alignment, more joy, more honesty, like more about the life you actually want, the more of a life I want. Like, I don't want to like be cold anymore. I don't want to have to be like, ask Alexa and what temperature is, and when Alexa says it's 3 degrees outside, just be like, God, no. I don't want to be like, hey, Philip, like, should we go out and shovel before breakfast? Or, hey, Philip, do you want to go out at lunchtime and shovel for our second pass? Or, like, hey, I can only go left out of my driveway. I don't want that anymore. So, even if it doesn't make perfect sense yet, and even if it scares the bejesus out of you, and even if you're still figuring out as it go, maybe this is your next season of life, right? And it's not asking you to fix yourself. um it's asking you to say, like, what if, like, what's possible for me? And I did an episode 2 weeks ago about getting Delulu, right? Like, what if I did get Delulu? What would Delulu look like for you? And if this episode hit you in the chest, and if something in you has you whispering like there might be more to this, let this be a reminder, like, you don't need to become a different person before you live your life fully, right? Life is happening to you right now, not 5 pounds from now, not when life comes down, not when you feel ready for more, now. And if this resonated with you, screenshot it and let me know, like, what was the like aha moment that you had. And then, or send this to a woman in your life who like needs to hear this. And please make sure you're following the show, because over the next year, I'm going to be having a lot more epiphanies because I have a feeling that the conversation that we just started here is just about to get really, really freaking good. So here's to living the full flip-flop lifestyle full time. And I am signing off with flip-flops in my hands, and I will see you next week.